Alright guys, we're going to start off today's tutorial by rocking out a little bit.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're
Now why am I happy? Because that was an if statement, and that's exactly what we're going to be covering in today's tutorial. Hi, I'm your host, Edwin Finch. Today we're going to be covering if statements, else if statements, and else statements. Alright guys, back at it again with our variable code. So if you did not watch the last tutorial, we already had all of this variable code set up. So I'm going to guide you through setting up the code right here if you don't already have it. It's pretty simple. Click import from GitHub, and then type in your project name, so like variable, and then the GitHub project link. Just copy and paste the link that I put in the description. It's the before code, so copy and paste that link into here. Leave that as master, click import, and you will have basically the exact same setup as I have here. So we're going to go into our buttonclick.c source file, and we are going to be focusing here again in our center section. So today's tutorial, we're going to be talking about if statements, else if statements, and else statements. So if you watched our overview video tutorial, I demonstrated this through being in a car, and we pretended like it was raining on the car, and we said, if it's raining, turn on the windshield wipers. Else if the rain turns up, if the rain gets more intense, turn up the windshield wipers. And else, so otherwise, if there's no rain, turn off the windshield wipers. So that is an if, else if, and else statement. It allows you to do something based on the conditions at hand. So we're going to be implementing this in our program today. So we're going to run our program as it is right now, and what is actually going on, or what has happened in the last tutorial, if you watched that, you might have noticed how if we went below 0 for our index in our alphabet array, right? So we have A at first. If we go below that, we get an issue because there's no such thing as a negative index, right? And it also happens if you go too high. So if you go, okay, that's weird. Okay, there we go. So if you go too high, like let's say you go past 25, then it will give you that same issue. So we're going to use if, else if, and else statements to fix that issue. And we're also going to add something else. So here in our down click handler, let's start with that. We're going to type our if statement. So if, and then some parentheses here. And inside of these parentheses, we're going to throw in our conditions. So all we want to check for this one is if our variable is less than 0. That's all you have to type. So it is just checking this. It's saying, is our variable less than 0? If it is, it runs what's inside of these squiggly brackets here, the curly braces. Make sure you have it set up like this. And inside of here, we are going to set our variable equal to 0. So you can probably already tell what this does. So if our variable goes below 0, it's going to set it back to 0. And that will fix the issue for the down click handler. Now we have to do this for the up click handler as well. So you probably already guessed it. If our variable is greater than 25, because that's the 26th item here, you know, we can start counting from 0. If it's greater than 25, then we're going to set our variable equal to 25. Okay, and that should be good. No autocomplete errors. We're going to save that. We're going to click run, and we're going to pray for our code. Let's see what we got here. Okay, we're going to click up. See, we're at B. Going to go down a bunch of times. It should be a negative index if we didn't have that, but it does. It sets it to 0, and this would happen as well with the case of above 25, but I'm not going to go that high. Don't want to bug you guys with my loud clicking. Okay, so now we've got that set up. Now, how do you use an else if and else statement? How do you use those statements? So what we're going to do here is actually introduce to you something called a Boolean. So a Boolean is a true or false value. It is going to be named is even. That's what we're going to set it to, and we're going to set it to false. And this is how you define your Boolean. So you can either just type false or true. It's pretty self-explanatory. I think you get it. And that's actually what's going on here. So in our if statement, this just breaks down to be a Boolean. This just breaks down to be either true or false. And if it's true, it runs. Else, if it's false, it doesn't run. And that is essentially how they work. And we are going to now implement an else if statement. And all you have to do, it's pretty self-explanatory as well. You just type else if and then parentheses, and we're going to put another condition here, all right? So we're going to say else if our variable, this funky %, which I'm going to tell you about in a second, 2 equal to 0, okay? We're going to put our curly braces. So let's slow it down. Now you're probably wondering, what is this? Well, if you already know what it is, that's great. It's called a modulus operator. And what it allows you to do is get the remainder of a variable. So let's say you have the number 5 and you take the modulus of 2, like you modulus with 2. So what it's going to do is it's going to divide, but it's going to give you the amount that it couldn't divide by. So we're going to have 5, right? We're going to divide it by 2. We're down to 3. Divide it by 2. We can do it again. And we're down to 1. 1 divided by 2. It can't be done with the modulus, so it returns 1. And this is really handy for checking, for example, if numbers are even. And that's what we're doing here. We're saying if our variable has a remainder of 0 when divided by 2, so if it's an even number, then we're going to run the code inside of here. So we're going to set our is even variable equal to true. And lastly, we're going to type else. Okay, this is going to happen otherwise. If both of these do not execute, then this is going to happen. So we're going to set is even equal to false. We're going to copy and paste this code. We're going to pop it right here. All right, so now it should run so that our is even variable sets itself equal to even if our variable is an even number. So now what are we going to do with this is even variable? Well, I'm going to teach you a little trick with Boolean variables that lets you simplify these, all the if and else statements. So if you have a Boolean, let's say is even, you can put a question mark. Let's put a question mark, a colon, and a semicolon, and I'm going to explain it all to you. So what goes to the right of the question mark is what will happen, what the program will use if this is true. If this Boolean that you have inserted on the left is true, whatever happens after the question mark and before the colon is that's what's gonna happen. So whatever you put here in this space, whatever happens after the colon is our else statement. So if this is false, let's say that is even is equal to false, then this will occur, okay? So we're gonna use this to shorten our line here. So normally you don't have to follow along, you don't have to copy this down. So if, we type is even, then we'd have an SN printf statement. We'd pop it in here. We'd set our else statement, pop another one here. And then, we have 2 lines and it's sort of annoying. What if we wanted to change our buffer? We have to copy paste. So what we can do is we can use this question mark and colon trick to actually change this line right here. So we're going to copy this, paste it here, and we're going to say even. Oh, instead of there, we're going to say even letter is, and then here, we're going to paste that, our letter. All right, now we don't want this just floating about. We want this in our SN printf function, so we're going to copy this over, paste it in right here. All right, so now if is even with the question mark, isn't that awesome? Is even, then it's gonna use this string, otherwise it's gonna use this. One little issue we gotta fix here is that our buffer is too small to fit the even letter string since we've expanded our front word here by 1. So we're just going to throw an exclamation mark on the end there, or you can even type even. As long as the length of the buffer is greater than or equal to what you want to be able to fit, then it should be all right. No issues there, no cutoffs. Okay, so we're going to run this. Compiling, installing. Wait for it. Okay. Installed, and we are going to click up. Our letter is B, even letter is C. Boom. That is all. That just works, right? Perfect. Okay, we got one last thing. I got one last thing I want to show you. So here we're going to break away our else if statement. We're going to make it its own statement with just if and else, which yes, you can do. You do not have to have an else if statement every time. You can just do if and else, and then it just runs these. But this takes up 6 whole lines of code, and if you got a lot of these, that can build up real quick. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to, remember how I was saying earlier how this ends up breaking down to be a Boolean? Well, what if you could set your Boolean equal to this? See how we're just setting it equal to true if this is true, and we're setting it equal to false if the false case happens? Then let's just do this. Let's just type is even equal to this. We'll take a chance. See if you guys trust me. There you go. Our compiler, our autocomplete is not throwing us any errors. We're going to copy paste this. We're going to replace our 6 lines of code. We're feeling pretty efficient. We're going to run this with a lot of confidence. And boom. Now for the moment of truth. Our letter is B, even letter is C. Boom. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so we've got that set up. That is basically it for this tutorial, guys. So we have covered if statements, else if statements, and else statements. We've also covered this little trick with the question mark and the colon for condensing your lines, and we're setting booleans equal to comparators here, to our what we had in our if statement before. So I encourage you guys to mess around with this, throw in a few more booleans, you know, use if, else if statements, else statements as much as you can. By the way, one little thing I left out, you can use as many else if statements as you want. So you do not only have to have one. You can continually write else if statements. So you can have a condition here, you can have a condition here, you can go on and on and on and on and on. If you made it through this video, nice job. I'm gonna give you a pat on the back. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.